Mr. Hill, will you say your name, please?
I am Robert Hill,
Will you please spell it?
Roberthill.
Okay. We're going to ask you a few questions about Rising Star. When did you come to Birmingham? Were you born here in Birmingham?
Born in Birmingham,
What year?
1935.
Okay. What are your earliest childhood memories of Rising and Rising Star?
Well, actually, I had a lot of relatives that lived in this area. In fact, my aunt, Mrs. Willetta Haynes, lived directly across the street from this present church. We used to come on the weekends and spend some time with her. And I remember the basement in this church. There were many activities that occurred here. In fact, I've been here all of my life.
Okay. How did your family support themselves during the Depression?
Well, actually, they had menial jobs, but you know, through love and prayer, and there was such a close-knit in the family. If one had, the other one also had, and it was a sharing thing.
Were your parents born here in Birmingham?
My parents were from Selma, Alabama.
Okay. What did you do for fun here in Rising and Rising Star?
Well, so many different things. Number one, for fun, we had baseball games. We had a lot of picnics, working with the children. And I remember vividly, we used to have, I never forget that song, Jesus Want Me for a Sunbeam. We loved it. We had kindergarten teachers here who actually taught us how to read and how to look up words in dictionaries.
Okay. Where did you go on dates?
Well, I tell you like this, during that particular time, blacks had to be very careful where they would go. I'm sure you've heard of Eugene Bull Connor.
Yeah.
You had to be very careful. If more than 5 or 10 got together, they were arrested. In other words, the paddy wagon pick you up. But during this particular time, I never forget, in this community, when Juanita Berry married John Stood, they had an after rehearsal dinner. And I was invited, and I was about 15 minutes late. When I arrived, no one was there. The lady lived directly across the street stated, "They are not there." I said, "Well, where are they?" She said, "They have gone to jail." They carried all of them to jail in the paddy wagon, including the mother and Mrs. Stewart also. So I was glad that I arrived late.
Where were you when you heard Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated?
I was in high school at the time.
Okay. What are your memories of Bloody Sunday?
On that particular Sunday, I can recall it was a very dreary, cloudy, dismal day. And the pastor announced that 16th Street Baptist Church had been bombed and 4 black girls were killed.
Who was the pastor of Rising Star Baptist
The
Church?
pastor was Reverend A.G. Hamilton.
Okay. Did you know anyone in Selma during the march?
No, I did not.
Okay. Are there any standout memories of the Montgomery boycott?
When I think of the boycott, I think about all of the atrocities that we went through growing up, where we had to take menial jobs in order to make a living. I often think about the foot soldiers. There were other people who are not mentioned by name, but they were there. They were involved in the movement. We often think about Miss Rosa Parks. She was tired and she had taken all she could take and she did not move. So my hat goes off to her and other foot soldiers who helped the situation.
Tell us, what is a foot soldier?
A foot soldier is one person who may not be the leader, but they are the backups, and they are the people that attend at the meeting. They walk with the leaders. and they followed through on their plans. They put up with a lot of hate, and yet they still loved.
Did you ever have a Rosa Parks experience?
I did not.
Did you have an occasion to take a stance against the civil rights era?
Yes. Let me say this. I attended Alabama A&M College, and I remember one occasion when we had to get on the bus, and whites would get on at different little points, like Arab or what have you. The blacks had to get up and move to the back.
Okay.
I was going with a young lady from Bessemer, Marion Long, and we dressed up in Indian outfits. So when the man said, "You all must get up and move to the back," I came up with a foreign tongue, and I simply said, and he said, "What's wrong with these people?" And we did not have to move. Immediately, when we arrived in Huntsville and got off the bus, I simply said, "Thank you, sir."
What are your earliest memories of Rising Star Baptist Church? Your earliest memories?
My earliest memories, I love the church. It was a close-knit church. We had leaders here who cared about children. Children were well disciplined, and it was important. They gave you the spiritual training. We had little Sunday school cards with biblical stories on it. You had to remember that, and you had to talk with your teacher about.
Okay. What is your funniest memory of Rising Star Baptist Church and Rising?
My funniest memory, and the wife is here today, and I don't want to say anything to make her angry because I see her eyes looking at me. I remember we were having a choir concert, and the late James Salfo was a great soloist, and he said, "I do a lot of sweating." And between verses, he pulled out a powder puff, patted his face, and said, "I had to stop to get the embalm look."
Since future generations will be watching this, what would you like to say to them?
I think one of the most important things for young parents to bring their children up so they'll know God. That's the greatest legacy you can leave your children. It's not in money and it's not in housing. This God that I'm talking about will be with them forever. He is the one who will keep them. And tell your children that there is no problem that God cannot solve. He is the head of everything. Trust him. And always say, "I'm going to do my best because I am a servant of the Most High God."
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Do you have a letter now that you want
Yes.
to read?
Dreams do come true. Every forward step taken by mankind through revolving years, every advance by humanity toward the ultimate goal has been led by some valiant dreamer whose eyes were fixed upon the dawn and who has done an Emerson urge, "Hitch your wagon to a star." I kept the faith. While serving as principal of Princeton Alternative School, I always looked out the classroom window at the vacant lots and dreamed that one day my church, Rising Star, would own those 4 lots. A supply teacher was hired for a certain period of time, and one evening I talked with her about my dream of owning the 4 lots. She stated, "What would you do with them if you owned them?" I stated, "Not for me, but for my church." She stated, "How honorably, I promise you this day, when I clear up all the legal issues, I will sell them to you, as I am the owner." We prayed and parted. On Sunday morning, Just before I exited my home for Sunday school, the telephone rang. It was Mrs. Johnny Mae Smith, and she asked if I remembered what we prayed for 20 years ago about the lots across from the school. She stated, "I am now ready to sell." God remembered our prayer after 20 years. The areas today are used by the church for annual picnics and other activities. Dreams do come true. I inquired about the lot on the right side of the building, and I went to the courthouse to find the owner and finally located her in New York. After many letters and calls, I finally convinced her to sell. This provided the parking area on the north side of the church. Dreams do come true. Mrs. Virginia Kelly talked with me for years about selling her house and asked what would the church do with it. I promised her that the church would build on it. We prayed and asked God to make it possible, and he did. The fellowship hall is on that lot. God makes all things possible. I'm happy to be a servant of the Most High God. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift. That's why we call it the present.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Got it? That's it. Thank you.
May I
Thank you.
go?
Yes, you
Yes, you
finished.
may.
I always follow my elders,
Hold on. Uh-oh.
and you can keep this.
All right. Name.
My name is Deborah Scott Thetford.
Can you spell Deborah?
Deborah.
Were you born here in Birmingham, Alabama?
Yes, I was.
What year and date?
I was born December the 7th, 1951.
What are your earliest childhood memories?
My earliest childhood memories in Rising.
Yes.
My earliest childhood memories in Rising was attending Children's House Preschool. There I attended kindergarten with Miss Ida C. Wilson.
What did you do for fun?
There was always fun in our household. There were 13 children there. We played with one another. We didn't need to play with the kids in the neighborhood, although we did, because our house was the community center. All the kids came to our house, but we had fun among ourselves. We made toys to play with. We read a lot. We made up games, and we had fun.
Okay, you said you attended Princeton School. Where did you attend high school?
I attended West End High School.
And what year did you attend West End High School?
I entered West End High School in 1966 after I graduated from Princeton Elementary School.
Okay, in 1966, was West End High School integrated? Were there any problems for the black students at West End High School in 1966?
When I attended West End High School in 1966, there were 5 other black students that had been attending the school. There were 8 black students who enrolled from Princeton Elementary School. Yes, we did have problems. We did have issues that arose. Some of the issues that sticks out with me are some of the instructors, when they would give a test, they would give us a separate test from the Caucasian students. Some of the other issues were when we would go to gym, that they would have a separate locker room for the black girls as opposed to the white girls when we went to dress out for gym. We would get detention more often than white students when we did something that the principal or the council deemed that was punishable.
How was that problem solved as being a black student at West End High School?
Well, basically, we would take the detention as it was issued to us. When there were issues that arose where our parents had to come to school, we knew we were going to be in trouble. Because our background from when we were at Preston, we knew that you didn't do anything in school to have your parents come to the school. You wanted to see your parents at school on American Education Week, and that was it. So when we were in trouble and our parents had to come to school, we just listened as the instructor or the counselor told our parents what the problem was. We didn't interrupt, and we took the punishment that was issued out to us.
Top you got a little problem.
Just with,
Just that question. Go back to the question about detention at West End.
How do we deal with it?
how did y'all solve the problems with integration and prejudice at West End High School?
Basically, we knew that the problem was not going to go away immediately. So what we did, as we were told, our parents instilled in us when we left home in the morning, going to school, to do your best, to only speak when you're spoken to, and to respect others and their property. So basically, as we went to school, we would speak, or we would speak when we were spoken to, or we wouldn't touch anybody else's property, and we would go to school as we did. And we would communicate with the students that we knew, the black students that had come from other black schools and the students that we finished Princeton School with.
Why did you choose to go to West End other than going to Parker or Jackson Hole and the other black high schools around in the area? Why did you choose that?
Personally, I did not choose to go to Weston High School. Personally, I would have chosen to go to Jackson Olin, which was Weston Olin at the time. But some of the leaders in the community got together and discussed the civil rights movement and the integration laws, and deemed that there were some students who would have excelled, and asked that they attended Weston High School.
Okay. Would that have been your Rosa Parks experience,
That would
being
have
at West End High School?
That would have been one of my Rosa Parks experience at Weston High School.
At West End High School, did you have a chance to take a stance during that era at West End High School? Something that you stood up for?
Well, we all had grown up together, and we had all attended, most of the students from Preston, we had attended Children's House Preschool from kindergarten through elementary school, so we had a tight bond. And one of the things that occurred was we did not have automobiles as we have today to drive to school. And we would all get together and meet on the corner in the mornings, and had a taxi cab would take us to West End High School. We would go to high school by cab, and we would come home in the afternoon in a cab. We would all put our nickels and dimes together to pay the cab fare. So that was one way that we were determined to complete our education, by making sure we had transportation to go there.
Where were you when you heard that Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated? And how did you feel?
Let's see, where was I when I heard Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated? I can't remember where I was exactly.
Do you remember your feelings, your parents talking about his assassination?
Yes, I do. I remember talking about it.
Well,
What did it mean to you to hear them talk about it?
To hear, I can't remember exactly where I was. You had to ask me
How did you
something.
feel about the assassination?
Okay. When I heard the assassination, I felt that black people had been put back 50 years because he was a true civil rights leader. He advocated nonviolence. He advocated peaceful communication, peaceful association with those who defied you or those who chose to violate you and your rights. I felt that a great man had been lost, and I knew that I really felt that there would be a great riot due to that.
on a lighter note, going back into your history, were your parents born here in Birmingham?
My mother was born in Statesboro, Georgia, and my parents moved to, my mother moved to Birmingham, Alabama from Statesboro, Georgia before I was born. My father was born in Montgomery, Alabama, and he's presently living in New York City.
Why did the loss of Dr. Martin Luther King make you feel that black people were put back 50 years? White people put black people back 50 years.
Because I knew that Dr. Martin Luther King stood for right justice for all. And I felt that black people needed a leader, someone to look up to. I know that as our heritage dictates to us that we believe in God, even as slaves, we look to God, we pray to God, but God was not someone we could see physically. And I felt that black people looked to Dr. Martin Luther King as the God that they could actually see, feel.
So, but why did you feel the white man lost 50 years due to his assassination?
No, I didn't say white men, I say black.
No, you said white people put back 50 years.
No, white people put us back 50
Oh,
years.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, what are your earliest memories of Rising Star Baptist Church?
My earliest memories of Rising Star Baptist Church is when my family moved to the Rising community, and I joined the Sunday school class and became involved with the other children of Rising, coming to Vacation Bible School, coming to BTU, singing in the choir, and going on church picnics.
What is your funniest memories at Rising Star Baptist Church?
As a child, things don't always, things that are funny aren't really funny when you become an adult. One of the funniest memories that I had as a child was to see one of the church members go up and down the aisle like a chicken from the sanctuary, from the pulpit down to the back of the church, just waving her hands like a chicken.
Well, since future generations will be watching this, what would you like to say to them?
I would like to say to the future generation, because I'm in the healthcare arena, I'm a registered nurse, I would like to say to the young people to take care of your bodies, both physically and spiritually. I would also like to say, as my kindergarten teacher said to me, give to the world the best that you have, and the best will come back to you.
Thank you. Very good. Mr. Peters, would you state your name?
Desert B. Peters,
Would you
Jr.
spell your name for me, please?
Desabee-Peters, Jr.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. When did you come to Birmingham, or were you born here in
I
Birmingham?
was born in Birmingham,
Can you tell me what year and month you were born in Birmingham?
June 23, 1919.
Mr. Peters, what are your earliest childhood memories in Rising?
My earliest childhood memories in Rising was growing up in a family that believed in order and system, and attending school and working with my parents who worked with the PTA.
Okay, what school did you attend?
I attended Slater School in the first grade, and Princeton in the second, third, and fourth grade.
Was Princeton School in the neighborhood at that time?
And no, it was in West End.
Okay, where is West End? Tell us where West
Princeton,
End.
we called it Princeton.
Okay, off Lum Avenue.
Yes.
Okay. How did your family support themselves during the Depression, Mr. Peters?
God blessed my father to work all during the Depression, but financial situation was so bad until the railroad was not paying off. Until every now and then they had some money to pay off. My father was a very industrious man, and he wanted to remodel the house in order to get the girls separated from the boys. And he did during the Depression. And the note was not but $15 a month, and he couldn't pay that. And my grandmother and I took the coin my father raised and carried to Bush Hill to Setter to get the note for the house, $15 a month.
Okay, can you state your father's name?
Desert B. Peters Sr.,
Okay. Was he born here in Birmingham?
Opelika, Alabama.
Your mother?
Opelika, Alabama.
Okay. How many children were in your family?
4.
Okay. Okay, 2 girls and
Two
how
boys.
was 2 boys? Okay. What are your memories of the Prohibition? That was when you couldn't buy alcohol in Birmingham. Do you remember anything about that?
Yes, I remember when they first started selling beer in Birmingham. I remember that very distinctly because I was old enough to go and buy some.
Where could you get it? Could you in Rising?
Big
Where
part-
where could you get it?
Oh, at the grocery stores and places like that, and also at taverns.
Okay. Was there a grocery store around in the neighborhood that you could shop and buy, where black people could shop and buy groceries, or did they have to go outside the neighborhood to buy groceries?
Well, we had 2 Negro grocery stores in Rising.
Okay.
We had the Saffold grocery store. We had the Haynes grocery store. And when I was a baby, we had the Clay grocery store when I was a baby.
Okay. Well, what did you do in Rising for fun? What did you do in Rising for fun?
Went to school and went to church and Sunday school.
And that was, well, where did you go on dates? Where did you go on dates when you took your girlfriend out? Where did you go on dates?
Oh, we would go to the movies and to occasional parties.
Okay, where was the movies? What was the movie house called in Birmingham?
Famous theater.
So how did you get there? Did you drive
On
or
the streetcar.
on the streetcar? Can you explain to us what a streetcar is?
Streetcar is a car that you rode on in the public to get where you were going because you didn't have an automobile.
Okay. Was it like a bus that?
Like a bus, that's right.
Okay. Did it run off gasoline or did it run off
Electricity.
tracks or with the
Electricity. and
electricity? Okay, that's what I'm trying to get you to tell us about the streetcars. Where were you when you heard that 16th Street was bombed?
I was in Mass.
Okay. What did you feel about that? How did it make you feel?
It made me feel very, very sorrowful because I knew about the movement and what was going on. It made me feel very, very sad.
Did you participate in the movement?
Of course, I volunteered to work in the movement. My best friend, Mrs. Lucinda Brown Roby, when they outlawed the NAACP in Alabama, she moved the headquarters into her house.
Okay.
And I was volunteered to help write memberships out.
All right.
And they arrested Mrs. Roby for touching the car in the parking lot. And her husband was so nervous until I drove him with a brown paper bag to the lawyer to get out of jail.
He had a brown paper bag over his head?
No, with the money in the bag.
Oh, with the money in the bag? Did you participate in any of the marches? Did you participate in any of the marches of the sit-ins downtown Birmingham?
I didn't participate in the marches, but I attended some of the meetings.
Okay. Do you have any memories do you know of anybody who was attacked by the dogs?
During the time when the students left to demonstrate is the only occasion that I can recall where they were attacked by dogs and everything else. And during the period when the students were demonstrating.
The children?
That's right. They left the schools were empty.
Okay, you were a teacher at that time?
Yes.
When the students left the school
Yes.
to march.
Yes.
Can you tell us what school that was?
Where I was teaching.
Yes, sir.
I was teaching at Auburn High School.
Okay. And the whole student body left to go
That's right.
downtown and march?
That's right.
Okay, what are your memories about that? What did they do with the students when they went
They
downtown to march?
crowded the jails out and they carried them to the Fair Park, and we went down, and I was very sorrowful to see them in the Fair Park.
Okay, so the teachers visit the students.
Some teachers did,
Okay,
just a few.
okay.
Some teachers,
So what did they do to get those students out of jail?
it was a long process, terrible situation existing.
Okay. Well, do you have any memories of Bloody Sunday? That's the march in Selma across the Edna Pettus Bridge.
I remember the march for this particular reason. My cousin, who was a Roman Catholic priest, came down with another Roman Catholic priest and his mother, and they came and had coffee on their way down for the march from Chicago, Illinois.
Okay.
He's a Roman Catholic priest, and,
Yes, sir.
and his friend came down for the march.
Okay.
I remember distinctly because we all had coffee that morning, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Was he hurt in the march?
No, no,
Remember
no.
that they were attacked?
No, he wasn't hurt. He's just he's always worked with civil
The
rights
civil rights.
issues. His name is Father George Clemens from Chicago.
Okay. Did he relate to you any of his memories about the march or what happened or what did he see?
No more than he saw the treatment of the people
Okay.
throughout, what have you.
Mr. Peters, did you ever hear about the Tuskegee experiment?
I read about it.
You read about the Tuskegee experiment, okay. What did you read about the Tuskegee experiment? Because that was one of the points in Black history in Alabama, how we were treated and how they used us as medical experiments.
I can't exactly explain because I never got a real clear understanding of the whole issue.
Okay,
Because you read articles, but it's so lopsided. You never get the real story of these issues. So I would dare try to explain it because I never got the real issues. There are many issues that I read about now. I don't get the real
Okay.
issue about it because the truth is always hidden.
you're right. Stop. Okay. Mr. Peters, what did you do when you experienced prejudice? Have you ever had an incident where you experienced prejudice because your skin was black?
Yes,
Can you tell us about that experience?
I prayed and worked in a manner to try to overcome the issue.
Can you tell us the issue? Can you tell us what happened to you? Can you tell us what happened to you that you were discriminated against because you were black?
There were so many occasions where I was discriminated against. For instance, I was riding the train from Detroit, Chicago 1, and during that particular time, they had what you call a Jim Crow on the Mason-Dixon line. And a friend of mine who's dead now, we were both teachers, and we said we're going to go on to the next color. And they told us all colored people Jim Crow on this
Okay,
train.
you can say the word. You can say what,
All people Jim Crow on this train.
Okay,
And so we just went on down to the Jim Crow car.
okay, the Jim Crow car was just a car for Negro riders.
That's
That's
right.
what you were saying, okay. Okay, so what did you do? You went to the car?
That's
Did you
right.
put up a fight or what?
No. I knew better than to put up a fight with the job that I had.
Okay, so what, the job that you had as a teacher,
That's right.
if you had to put up a fight with the Jim Crow law, are you saying that you would have lost your job at that time?
Could have.
Would there have been some repercussions against your job? Okay. Since future generations will be watching this, Mr. Peters, what would you like to say to them about our history?
I would like to say that in reading history, always read between the lines and get the essence and the meaning that's expressed on the line. You have to go between the lines many times to get the essence and the meaning on the line. You have to go between the lines. Reading is interpretation of the facts. And if you're not very careful, you miss the facts because things are expressed in a way to mislead you in many ways. That's the advice I would like to give to all young people, and to be orderly in their reading, orderly and systematic in their interpretation, and learn to understand vocabulary, because people can mislead you if you don't understand vocabulary.
Understand. Well, what can you tell them about how far black people or African Americans have come since you were a teenager and rising to now? How far have they come?
We have made a great deal of progress over the period of years, a great deal of progress, but it's going to take a lot of integrity, dedication, and perseverance to keep things going. We do not have enough perseverance, dedication, compassion. We need more of that. Learning is a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing. A little learning is a dangerous thing. Drink deep, but taste not of the fire spring. For the shallow draughts intoxicate the brain, and drinking largely sobers us.
You're right. All right, Mr. Peters, thank you so much. Thank you. Say your name for me.
My name is Frances Morgan Wendell,
Would you spell your name for me, please?
Frances Morgandwindham.
Okay, Ms. Wendell. Were you born here in Birmingham, Alabama?
No, I was not born in Alabama.
Where were you born?
I was born in Quitman, Mississippi,
Okay, where is that, Ms. Wendell?
off of DeSoto,
Okay. Off of what?
off of 10 going to Florida.
All right. Well, when did your family move to Birmingham, Alabama?
Probably 1936.
Did your family move to the community of Rising, or did they stay
No.
anywhere else in Birmingham?
No, we did not. We moved to Ensley, Alabama,
Well, when did your family move to Rising?
in 1939.
Well, what is your earliest memory of Rising and Rising Star Baptist Church?
We moved to Rising, I was in 10th grade, I was ninth one. And of course, we had, we didn't own a home, we were renting in 211 13th Street West. That was my earliest memory of Rising Star Baptist Church, because the second Sunday we joined.
The second Sunday that you moved here, y'all
Yes.
joined this church. How did your family support themselves during the Depression? Do you remember that?
My daddy worked at the steel plant in Fairfield, Alabama. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. She was a seamstress.
What are your memories of the Prohibition at that time?
I don't think I had any idea of it.
Okay. What did you do for fun?
Well, we played baseball. I played with the young men down behind the ballpark. And we did church work. That was, the church was the place of social activities along with your home.
Was Rickwood Field already built
Yes.
when you moved to Rising?
Rickwood Field was already built, and of course, you couldn't go down. The lady, girls couldn't go to the ballpark and park cars. So I dug 4 spaces out in front of my house and parked cars for 25 cents a car. I made $2 on the nights that the Barons play, white Barons.
The white Barons. Okay, were you allowed to go to any of the games? Were the children in the neighborhood could go to any of the games?
The young men or the men in the community went in when they opened the gates free.
Okay,
And if you were parking cars down there, you could go in free at the end, at the ninth ending.
okay,
But you made money.
okay. Well, where did you go on dates?
We went to the famous theater on our dates. Mostly our social activities came out of the church. We had teas in the afternoon at 5 o'clock. We would dress up, and we used to walk to the park wherever the tea was being given. We would walk with long dresses on, and of course we served tea and little crackers and things like that. But most of our enjoyment was gotten from the church activities.
So that's what you did on a date? I mean, when you went with your boyfriend?
Yeah,
To the, walk to the teas?
That was permissible. All
Okay.
the girls who had dates with young men could go together.
Oh, okay. Where were you when you heard that the 16th Street was bombed? 16th Street
I had
Baptist Church
just
was
picked up
bombed.
my mother to bring her over to my house because I am now keeping house with my grandmother, the two of us, and my mother had moved to Fairfield. So we were coming by the Catholic school from where Fairfield and Birmingham meet. And we heard that the church had been bombed.
What were your feelings about that?
I was very angry, very, very angry. The reason I was so angry was because I was so tired of the same things happening every other year, every other month. Something happened, and you had to be considerate. And that's all you were taught, to be calm, be considerate, love your neighbor as yourself. But I never did believe in that.
Why? What was your philosophy
Because
of?
it had been going on so long, and I knew there were many wrongs that had not been right and could have been right. In going to school, you learn conditions, and you do form your own opinion as to what is and what is going to be and what is not right. I'm a history major, and of course I took interest in all of the things written in the magazines and things that I heard other people talking about, and wondered many, many days, what could I do to help myself?
Well, did you participate in any of the marches or?
I only opened the door and held it open while my students at Hayes High School marched out.
So did your school clear? Did all the students march out
All
of Hayes?
in my room marched out.
Did any of
No,
the teachers march out with
no,
them?
not that I know of. If we had marched out, then we would have been fired. And many of us had responsibilities, so all we could do was to help the kids to go and tell them to be cool.
Okay. Was there any occasion that you was discriminated against or somebody showed prejudice against you?
Now, you really don't want me to answer that.
Yes, ma'am, I want you to answer that. I want you to answer that. I know there were many occasions, but
Yeah,
find one
more
that
than-
more than,
Be careful now.
yes, ma'am, one that really sticks out in your memory
Well,
and what stance you took against it.
I am not going to tell you all of the same, but the ones that gave me a determination to do something, even if I tried to do it secretly. We rode a streetcar called the Special. We went to Parker High School, past other schools to get there. Then in the evening when we rode back on the Special, our tickets were taken up in the front and we walked to the back. I always resented that, but it wasn't anything I could do. Until one day, one of the young ladies put her hands on her hips, and as I passed by, she moved her arm to hit me. Not hard, but just touched me, but that was too much. I was upset totally by then and tried to perform on her what I thought was a good lick, and it was. That was the first encounter I had with the police.
Was she white?
Yes, she was.
So what did the police, they called the police on you?
By the time they got there, I was gone.
Oh, well, Can you tell me who hit you?
I don't know her
I
name.
mean, was she, tell me in a complete sentence, this was a white girl.
This was a white girl who she just put her hands on her hips like this and did like that.
Was she trying to keep you from getting on the bus
she
or
was just-
keep you from moving?
To me, the little girl was just being nasty.
Okay. What is your funniest memory at Rising Star Baptist Church?
Looking at the opening here, that used to be a wall, and it leaked right here where this light is, but over a little farther. I used to sit up and say to myself, what can we do to hide where the water was running down? So my mother and I decided I would get up on a ladder, and it's a magnolia tree down on 16th on the next street over. And I got up in the tree and broke off limbs and brought them to this church and greased them and put them up with thumbtacks so you couldn't see where the water had been running down, trying to make my church pretty
Okay.
by service.
Well, Ms. Wonder, since future generations will be watching this, what would you like to say to them?
Number one, I would like to say to all generations coming, love the Lord with all thy strength. Keep your aims high. You don't have to accept anything. You can dislike and do something to ease your situation so that you can serve a true and living God.
Thank you, Ms. Wonder. That's it. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Ms. Charlie Mae, will you please state your name for me?
Charlie Mae Saffold,
Will you please spell your name for me?
Saffold,
Spell Charlie.
CharlieMae.
Ms. Charlie Mae, were you born in Birmingham?
Yes, I was born in Birmingham,
Were you born in the community of Rising?
in the community of Rising.
Ms. Charlie Mae, can you tell us when you were born?
Yes, I can. I was born July 1st, 1933, living on Lom Avenue.
What are your earliest childhood memories of living in Rising, Ms. Charlie Mae?
My real early memories of it, you mean as I
Grew up, yes, ma'am.
As
As a teenager, as a young
As
child?
a young child, I remember, and this is one thing maybe I shouldn't tell you, but I remember
Too much
growing up,
background noise. Go on,
making the
Ms.
money that we had to spend, the disposable cash, the things that we did. Digging worms on, I don't know whether that was Village or Valley Creek, but whatever it is, it's the creek right behind our house. But digging worms and selling worms and making the money that my sister and that we bought our first bicycle with.
Oh, okay. Do you remember any of the businesses that were in Rising? Was Rising self-sufficient? That's what I'm
I
asking.
mean, in and of itself, you could get most everything you wanted
Here,
in Rising.
right in the neighborhood, did you have to go outside of the neighborhood to get things
yes,
that
if
you
we-
need?
If we wanted clothes or things like that,
Okay.
but there were grocery stores in the neighborhood. There were no black grocery stores at that time when I grew up. But yes, there was. There was the Barge store, and maybe when I was a child, my father-in-law owned the store that got to be the Tortorisi store.
Okay.
But after then, those stores closed, my father-in-law's store, but the Barge store stayed open until I think Miss Barge died, but she was a black person. The others were Italian.
Okay, so
Italian.
there were some other cultures inside of Rising that ran the
Yes,
businesses.
Yes, three that I really knew of.
Okay, how did your family support themselves during the Depression? That was between the years of 1939 and 1942.
Okay, I really don't remember a lot about that, but my
Okay.
granddaddy, Willie Ward,
Okay.
he always worked at the United States Steel.
Okay.
And my grandma, Sweetie Blue,
Okay,
she was Sweetie Blue Ward. We all just kind of dug worms with there were a bunch of us children who just joined in to do that. We made money, but we did it as a play thing that we did in the neighborhood, along with some of our friends across the street from us, the Heels,
okay.
and the Petses. We always, that was our, that was really our business on Lum Avenue, because we'd have cars lined up on 4th of July and those people to buy worms, and we'd sell them 50 cents a can at that time.
Did your parents, were they born in Birmingham or did they come from Birmingham?
My parents, not my grandparents, raised me.
Okay, your
But-
grandparents.
Yes, yes. But they came from Clayton, Alabama and P Road, Alabama.
Do you know why they came up from Clayton and P Road, Alabama to Birmingham?
Well, I don't know, but Daddy always told me it was for jobs.
Okay.
That they came to Birmingham.
Okay. Well, what did you do for fun in Rising? Besides digging for worms, what were the other fun things that you did?
I
in
really
Rising?
don't know. On the fourth Sunday, I grew up as a member of Shady Grove. On the fourth Sunday night
Okay.
of every month, they used to call Shady Grove Holy Ghost headquarters.
Okay.
And that's where they'd have singing groups,
Okay.
glee clubs as we called them. And so all the girls, and well, a lot of the girls, we had boyfriends who were members of those groups. I had one, Annabelle, Lawrence, and Betty, the Hills across the street, and a lot of us, we had both, but all of the churches in the neighborhood, most of the people would come to those, gospel programs that we had on the fourth Sunday nights at Shady Grove.
So that's what you did for dates too?
Oh, yeah, we found some dates there, and then I had cousins who lived in other neighborhoods who'd bring their friends here.
Okay.
But that was, I don't really know a lot of things we did to just to play things or had things that were organized as recreation, other than, through the church programs and things. That's all.
Well, what are your memories of Rickwood Field?
Oh, that was the place that we really had on Sunday evenings when the baseball games were there. The Black Barons played at Rickwood Field, and that was really our big Sunday evening. We would always go to Rickwood Field and go in when the gates open. We didn't have money to go in until the gates open. But now sometimes, and we as black, if there were white games, we'd always were in the bleachers. But when the Black Barons played, we sat in the stands. And one of the things that was really fun, a lot of the kids used to climb the fences. And I remember them telling me once, there's a group of youngsters out here, some of them remember here, Shady Road and everywhere, they climbed over the fence, and as they climbed over the fence, the police were waiting on them at the bottom, had them to climb back over the fence out there. But usually we got in when the gates opened.
So when the Black Barons played down at Rickwood, it was not openly open for the Negro people there, or they still have to wait until at the end of the game to see them play?
When the Black Barons played, then the blacks sat in the stands. They
Okay.
sat in the stand. When the white Barons played, then we sat in the bleachers. If you were there, you didn't, that was segregation. So you didn't sit in you sat in the bleachers.
Okay, the bleachers were, I'm trying to get understand
The
between.
bleachers were those seats that
Okay.
were, I think they were uncovered then. And they were just
Okay, out in the sun, in the
Out
element.
in the sun with
Okay.
no cover, and it was far away. You could get there through where the whites were sitting, but you just had to walk way around to the south end of Rickwood Field to be in the bleachers. But that's where we sat, and you didn't come in the front. You paid your money.
Oh, that was my
Although I
next
didn't pay,
question.
you paid your money. You go in the gate at the bleachers. You didn't come through the other part.
Okay. Ms. Charlie Mae, where were you when you heard that the 16th Street was bombed? 16th Street Baptist Church was bombed?
We were at home that morning. We were at home, and I'm sure we were getting ready for church because it was about church time, one of those things. And we got the news. I don't know how we got the news, but because I don't know whether the media was that the way it is now. But we got that news, and my husband's James Saffo, and they said, don't come down to 16th Street Church. That was too much going on at 16th Street. So knowing my husband, we jumped in the car and we went down to 16th Street Church. And when we got there, and I remember we were right across, 16th Street, we were right on the other side. There were homes over there at that time. we were there at 16th Street, and we saw them bringing out. We saw all of the chaos, all of the things that happened that morning. I went with my 2 girls and my son and James. And what I remember so vividly about that was the police started shooting up in the air. They were really brutal to those around, you know. They showed what they could do to us. And Cheryl, my oldest twin, she started, when they started shooting, it scared her. It really scared her. And she just took off running. And she ran, and you know, we talked to her, she ran until she saw some black folk on the porch, or she went under the house, somewhere she went, but we were right behind. And the police were, you know, telling us to halt, because I was right behind her. And my daughter said, I said some choice words. I don't know what I said, but I know I didn't stop. And we got her, and she was terrified of what they were doing that day, but it's really, it stays in my mind that we were there that morning and saw that happening.
Okay. Well, we know that your children have turned out to be productive citizens. Do you think that experience at 16th Street Baptist Church had an impact on your children, or why your son chose the field that he chose and why your daughters are doing what they're doing now?
I really don't know how much of that it had to do with that. I don't know how much of that it had to do with that, with our lives. I don't know how that impacted that, but I know it left an indelible mark on all of us to see all of the chaotic things that were happening there.
Well, the movement as a whole, how did it affect you as a whole, the movement? Were you a part of it? Did you participate in it?
I was really not a part of that, even though I knew the things were going on. I know that there was one member in Rising Star who really was a part of that, Laura Oden, who was the first to take our children to different places like Kittyland and those places. That she really worked in that. I remember working in a place, at that time it was in the Medical Arts Building. I was secretary to a psychiatrist at that time. And he would sit, you know, we'd sit down and by the time I was going to get off in the afternoon, he'd say, now, Charlie, I know there are lots of things going on, and that's going to be really bad for you. And I really didn't think of those things as bad for me. I was a young woman then, so when I would get off from work in the evening, instead of just going home, I went straight downtown where they were spraying you know, the dogs. I went straight down to where the park is now. There were homes and things, but I went straight to the parks. I didn't go home. It really didn't affect me because that much at that time. But I do remember where I worked in the Medical Arts Building, you had to, all of the signs and things in the halls, colored and white. The restrooms were on each floor in the Medical Arts Building. And when you come to the door to ask, in our office, that was just black and white. You had to sit together, and that was just, that was not the norm there. But this doctor was from Wilmette, Illinois. So he just mixed them all up. But one morning, I'll say this one thing, I never went to the colored fountain. And I always went to I don't know whether that was defiance or what, but I always went to the white fountain. I'd go out to fill up the different things. And if somebody would come, it was at a time when I was his secretary. And when someone would come, black would come to the window and say, where's the restroom? In all of the other offices, they tell you, down in the basement, we were on the, I don't know, we were upstairs. But you go down in the basement where the maids and the orderlies and everything is where they were. When you come to our window with the doctor, with the other lady who was there at that time too, we just hand them the keys right out in the hall. So you could go right out in the hall to the restrooms. So I got a chance to see a lot of the things that were going on in the civil rights movement, and especially the hoses and things, because I'd get off in the evening and go down to see all of this happening. And for some reason, I really wasn't afraid of that. It wasn't fun, but I enjoyed getting out. I never let him know. I just let him think that I was really grieved, you know, all of this, and I was upset by that. But I like to get out and go down and see what was going on, and I got to see a lot of the things that were happening.
Well, did you ever experience any prejudice
Oh,
or any?
oh yes, and as I heard somebody else saying, it was one of the things about riding on the bus. When we left this community in the 5th grade, we had to go to Hill School or Lincoln School, and I remember going, the Carbon, as we called it, was up on 7th Street. That's where they would come out in the evening, and they would pick up all of the colored children coming from Lincoln School and those schools in that area. And what we do, we get on the bus was empty. It would be coming out of the Carbon. And we get on the bus, pay our fare, and then the bus driver, no other whites were on it, would not get on it from 7th Street to 14th Street where we get off. But he would always take the sign, the colored and white, and put it to the back of the bus. So we all had to just steal behind that sign. And that's the thing that we used to, we encountered that almost every evening. And at another time, I have to tell it, on 4th Avenue when I was getting on a bus, I had been standing talking to a friend, and I got on the bus. The bus was right at Carver Theater. So I got on the bus, put $1 on there. I don't know where I got $1 from that time, but I had $1. And he gave me all of the change from this. And then he told me, I'm up on the bus, he said, then I had to get off and go walk to the back of the bus and get on back there. So what I did, I had this handful of change, and I just took it and pitched it all in his face. And I thought about how dangerous that could have been. But all of the white people who were standing there, they got this change and they picked it up and was passing it to me. But I did not get on that bus at all. I went another way. I caught another bus. I didn't catch that bus.
So you can say that was your Rosa Parks stance.
Oh yeah, that was
your
really
Rosa
my
Parks.
Rosa Parks stand, but I didn't catch that bus.
Okay, now we're gonna make things just a little bit lighter. What is your funniest memory at Rising Star Baptist Church? Funniest memory.
I'm trying to think of my funniest memory. Maybe I need to do like on Family Feud. Maybe I need to go back to that one. I was trying to think of something that's really funny that I can remember.
Well,
right now, I guess I'd have to think about that.
Okay, well, this is the end. Since future generations will be watching this, what would you like to say to them about how life is for you now? What advice you have for them?
I guess I could say the thing that I always told my children about undergoing present difficulties for future gain. Because I can remember every one of my children and grandchildren, they know that all through school, because anyway else they go is undergoing present difficulties for future gain. And no matter how hard that you had things, you know, that there was some hope for later on, for tomorrow, and all of those things we went through. And in fact, I think these are the kinds of things that they need to know, because I don't think they are being taught these things that you're doing. You know, they don't know the hard things that we had to go through. They don't remember having to go to the back of the bus. They don't really remember those things. So I guess do the best that you can with what you have at that time, and pray to God that He would just bless your efforts in what you do. That's the thing that I always think about what I did, and He blessed my efforts, and they need to know that.
Well, thank you, Ms. John. That's it. You got Thank you, ma'am.